Seattle. He went to West Coast Baptist, right? West Coast Baptist College. I was going to call it Bible College. And that's where he met Becca. And then Becca, obviously, is our pastor's daughter. And so then he moved here because he likes Becca. And so now he's a faithful member of our church, and he's really, really helpful around here. And so I'm sure he has a great sermon prepared for us. So let's give him a hand while he comes up here. Come on, Bryan.
All right. I think the last time I was here, I mentioned a sermon that I preached. I think it was like one of the first sermons. And I said that immediately after I preached it, the next service, the pastor preached totally the opposite. And I was going to preach that, but then pastor kept telling me, he's like, I want to get John done with. So I was like, okay, perfect, pastor. I'll help in and hop on John and just kind of go by through the verses. And this is my first time I ever done a sermon or a study where it's kind of verse by verse. And honestly, in learning this and researching this and trying to prepare to teach this, I have to give props to pastor. That's a lot of talking just for going through a couple verses. Like the amount of time that he has to like prepare for that is probably like enormous, just to like be able to talk and like research and study and just convey that just with going over a couple verses. So I prepared for around 30 verses. So hopefully we'll see if I can fill that time up there. But we're going to go ahead and be in John 7, picking up right where pastor left off in John 7. And while you guys are turning there, I'm just going to kind of give a recap of where we've been, John 1 through 6, and some of you haven't been here, and just to kind of give everybody caught up to speed. So in John chapter 1, we're introduced to John the Baptist, and we see the beginning of Jesus' ministry right into John the 2nd. We see Jesus turn water into wine, and he goes in and cleanses out the temple. Then into John 3, we see Nicodemus question Jesus. He has all those questions about how to become a born-again believer, and Jesus gives him kind of like the amazing answer of like, you need to return back to your mother's womb, like you need to be born again. And he's kind of mind blown and thinking like, how am I going to go back into my mother's womb? That makes no sense. And they have a conversation throughout the rest of the night and just kind of answers his questions. And then we see the most well-known verse in John 3:16 in that chapter. We move on to John 4, and we see the adulterous woman in Samaria. We see Jesus' call to the harvest of the white fields, and we see Jesus heal the nobleman's son. In John 5, we see Jesus heals somebody at the pool of Bethesda, and then we see the Jews sought to kill him, which extends it to John 6. It seems that right at John 5, we see a turn in the Jewish crowds that immediately they wanted to start killing him because Jesus started to pronounce his deity and say that I am one with God, that I am from him. I'm the one you've been talking about and reading about and preparing about. And then in John 6, we see the story of the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes. And then right before this chapter, into John 7, we see the start of the falling away of the disciples. So that's the last part that Pastor left us with, is that there seemed to be a turning away of a lot of the people that were following Jesus. So we're going to go ahead and jump into John 7, and we're going to start verse 1 here. After these things, Jesus walked into Galilee, for he would not walk in Jewry, because the Jews sought to kill him. Going back to all the way back into chapter 5 and seeing that all these people are still following him and seeking after him to kill him. And then in the second verse, now the Jews' feast of Tabernacles was at hand. His brethren therefore said unto him, depart hence and go into Judea, that thy disciples also may see the works that thou doest. For there is no man that doth anything in secret, and he himself seeketh to be known openly. If thou do these things, show thyself to thy word. Adonis, just a quick, can you give me a thumbs up when we're like 5 minutes to about to be done? I didn't keep my Apple Watch on me, which I usually have, but if you want to just give me a thumbs up right when we're close. I don't want to run too long, just in case if I do run too long. So we see in the first verse that after these things, Jesus walked into Galilee, for he would not walk in Jewry because the Jews sought to kill him. And in reading this, like there's a ton of things that I don't normally think of until going into studying and reading some other books and seeing exactly what was happening around this time. And when I hear of that, Jesus would not walk into Jewry. If you put any other person to that, if somebody was coming after me to kill me, I probably wouldn't go to where they are just out of fear. Like it's a smart decision probably not to go where the people are wanting to kill you. But Jesus is not us in the saying that he's the Son of God. He is God. So not out of a lack of confidence or a lack of courage is he not going into any other area, but that in God's timing, he needs to be in Galilee for a purpose, which we'll see on in the further chapters. But Jesus isn't just scared there hiding inside Galilee just because there's a bunch of people looking for him and seeking to kill him. He's actually following God's timeline, and in God's things, he's following those there. Now, the Feast of the Jews of Tabernacles was at hand in the second verse. The Feast of Tabernacles was a week-long celebration to remember God's faithfulness to the Israel during the wilderness wanderings there. There's many feasts that are going out throughout the chapter of John here, but this one is the Feast of Tabernacles, and we'll see that kind of extended on into the further here. And then we see that they want his brethren come up to him and said, therefore said unto him, depart hence and go into Judea, that thy disciples also may see the works that thou doest. So the brethren, I couldn't really necessarily decide if this is the people that are following along with him or if these are actually Jesus' brothers. There's some places that I read that these are part of Jesus' family, and then there's some that said this is just kind of like the people that were still with him at that point. But basically they're saying that, hey, Jesus, we want you to go in Judea, and thy disciples also see the works that thou doest. And they're referencing the disciples before in the previous chapter. We just see a large falling away of the disciples, and they're kind of saying that, Jesus, we want you to take it to the next level. We want you to take this on the road. We want you to go to Judea. We want to get those disciples back. If you just show them miracles, if that's all they want to see, we just want to see the people back. We want to have our crowd back together. We want to see those miracles happen. We want to see everybody back to the place that we were. And that's not Jesus' purpose. Jesus' purpose is not just to gather a crowd. Jesus' purpose is not to just have a large following. Jesus' purpose is not just to do these amazing, miraculous things just to get people's eyes and attention on him. Jesus is there for the sole purpose of God's glory. He's there to proclaim the gospel. He's there to get people saved. And so his brethren, whether you take that as his actual family or the people that are alongside of him, they're saying that, Jesus, we just want you to go to this popular place. We want you to just kind of to gather all the people together. We want to show them a grand miracle, and then you'll see those disciples get back. And go into Judea, that thy disciples also may see the works that thou doest. Verse 4, for there is no man that doth anything in secret, and he himself seeketh to be known openly. If thou do these things, show thyself to the world. They're kind of going back and forth and saying that that's amazing that you do these things, but it's in secret. Like, what's the point of that? Like, what is the point of you healing somebody by the poolside and healing somebody, over here, healing this person's son, and you're doing it all in kind of in close quarters. There's only a couple people around you. Like, don't you want everybody to see that? Don't you want everybody to know about these? Don't you want these miracles to be widely known? And Jesus at this point, kind of like in the start of his ministry, he's saying like, no, I'm doing these specifically for a purpose. Like, these are assigned to the Jews, yes, but he's like, I'm not here just to be popular, although he will be. Like, you see everybody starts to know about him. You see all these Jews that are trying to kill him. They're not just trying to kill a random person. They know exactly who he is and what he came to do. So we're going to go ahead and see and jump into the next couple verses here. So John 6-9 here. We'll go ahead and extend to verse 5, and then we'll read down. For neither did his brethren believe in him. So the people that were with him, they didn't, even though they wanted him to do all these miracles and do all these signs and wonders and bring the disciples back into him, it just says that neither did his brethren believe in him. So what was kind of the point in them bringing up all these miracles and stuff like that when they didn't actually believe in him himself? It's just kind of interesting to see that. What was their purpose in that? What were they trying to drive at? What were they trying to get out of Jesus there? Then Jesus said unto them, my time is not yet come, but your time is always ready. The world cannot hate you, but me it hateth, because I testify of it, that the works thereof are evil. Go ye up unto this feast. I go not up yet unto this feast, for my time is not yet full come. When he had said these words unto them, he abode still in Galilee. So he's still in Galilee. He still hasn't left Galilee. But we see that Jesus is talking about, kind of going back to the verse 1 of God's timeline. My time is not yet come, but your time is always ready. Saying that you're always wanting to go, go, go. You're always wanting to go on to the next big thing, the next popular thing. You want to get the next group of crowd coming in. You want to get the next miracle. He's like, you're always ready. You're always wanting that next thing. But he says that I'm waiting for the right time. My time has not yet come. Jesus states in this verse that he will not be going up to the feast. His brethren wanted him to bring attention to himself and go to Judea and attend the feast, but Jesus didn't want to go publicly. His brethren didn't understand that Jesus was fully submitted to the will of the Father and that it wasn't in God's timing. And it's kind of in our lives the same. We kind of get caught up in like certain things. We just see like these big crowds or maybe like a mega church and they're doing so many great events. And not saying that mega churches are wrong or anything like that, but as people, as humans, we kind of get caught up in the great, glamorous, glorious things of this world. And it's like the newest iPhone. I preached about that before. Or the newest like laptop or the newest car or the newest house or the newest furniture, whatever your kind of like it thing is that we get caught up in that. It makes us excited. We want that. We want that like item and that possession. And here, these people are like, Jesus, like, let's go to Judea. Like, I want the next miracle. I want that next big thing. I want the next thing to keep me around. Like, I don't believe in you, but I just want that next kind of thing to like keep me around. And then like the disciples all left, but I'm willing to wait for that next miracle. Like, just let me have that next miracle. And in here, Jesus is saying that like, no, like you want things at the ready, you want things now, but I have a timeline to go by. This is not my time yet to leave here. And he's also staying in Galilee at that time because it's not a part of his time there. And in the thing he says in verse 7, he says, the world cannot hate you, but me it hateth, because I testify of it and the works thereof are evil. Jesus never strayed away. He never shied away with just telling people the straight up truth. And that's why the Jews are seeking to kill him, because he's kind of told them straight ahead and broke away from their traditions that started in the Old Testament, but they kind of took him to another level of just keeping with the traditions and not actually staying with what the purpose was just to stay righteous, to judge righteously, to keep yourself righteous. And that's what the purpose of those Old Testament traditions and the laws were. But they kind of took it to the extreme. The Jews did, and they just kind of like stuck with traditions of it. And Jesus broke away those traditions. We'll see kind of further down here of healings and more stuff that he did to reference how he broke away from those traditions. And the Jews are just seeking to kill him now because they're kind of going against what they've taught, what they're in charge of, what their rulers are saying. And we're going to go and jump down to verse 9 here and continue on. When he had said these words unto them, he abode still in Galilee. But when his brethren were gone up, then went he also up into the feast, not openly, but as they were in secret. So we'll put a pause there. He kind of says up into verse 8, go ye up into this feast, I go not up yet unto this feast. Kind of an interesting fact. As I was researching this and looking this up, in other versions of the Bible, some other scholars and commentators were saying that other versions of the Bible kind of say that I will not go into this feast. They kind of take the word yet out of it and saying that I will not go into this feast. And then they use that as a reason why the Bible isn't true, because they're saying Jesus himself says in verse 8 that I will not go into the feast. And then in the further down, you see here in verse 10, it says, but when his brethren were gone up, then went he also unto the feast, not openly, but as it were in secret. In our version, in the correct version, it says, is not yet fully come, and it says not yet. Like, I will not go, as of right now, I'm not going to go. And they use that kind of like as a weird way to twist it and just say that, hey, like the Bible isn't true just because Jesus said one thing here and then did it another time here, just kind of like went to the feast. But in our version, it says, not yet come. It's showing that it's not right now. I'm not going to be there right now. Like, it never says Jesus said he couldn't come later on. He just says, it's not my time right now. I'm not going to go up to this popular place. I'm not going to go to the feast. I'm not going to be used to just show off a miracle. I'm going to be there in my own time. Jump back down into verse 10. But when his brethren were gone up, then went he also up into the feast, not openly, but as it were in secret. Still trying to like keep it to where he's not just going there just to be gaining popularity and getting a crowd together. He has a purpose. Verse 11, then the Jews sought him at the feast and said, where is he? Still looking for him. And 12, and there was much murmuring among the people concerning him. For some said, he is a good man. Others said, nay, but he deceiveth the people. The Jews were still seeking him out, most likely the same Jews that were still searching him from all the way in chapter 6. Just think of like, if we're in that position, like we would probably be doing something similar to, which is where we're not going to go out in public. We're not trying to like have this huge major fight. As Christ, as the Son of God, he could have like snapped his finger and made this whole crowd disappear of the people who were trying to fight. But he's not trying to draw attention to that. He has his own purpose. Like I said, back to that, he has his own timeline. And he's not going to deal with these people right now. It's not the fact, like I said, he's not afraid of them. He doesn't lack courage. He just knows that this is not what he's going to deal with right now. He's not there for the purpose of trying to stop people from killing him. He's on his way to do some more miracles. All right, so jump back into verse 13. Howbeit no man spake openly of him for fear of the Jews. Nobody wanted to talk about him, even though they're asking and questioning him, where is he at? Where is he at? The fear of those people that are trying to seek out Jesus and kill him, they won't even speak of himself. They won't talk about him. They won't answer him. Where's Jesus at? I don't know. Who's Jesus? I don't know. They don't want to have anything to do with his name at that point just because there's so much uproar around it. There's so many people looking for him. Jump down into verse 14. Now about the midst of the feast, Jesus went up into the temple and taught. And the Jews marveled, saying, how knoweth this man's letters, having never learned? Verse 16, Jesus answered them and said, my doctrine is not mine, but is that sent me. If a man will do his will, he shall know of the doctrine, whether it be of God or whether I speak of myself. He that speaketh of himself seeketh his own glory, but he that seeketh his glory that sent him, the same is true, and no unrighteousness is in him. I love this passage and this part of the scriptures just because he kind of shies away from this feast, this place where everybody like should be at that time. Like as a Jew, you should be participating with the feast with your family. Like this is the thing that you are doing. There's nothing else you should be doing besides participating in this feast. And Jesus' priorities are elsewhere. Just because he knows that, like, hey, this is a tradition, it's really nice, like, it's a feast, and I realize that, like, the purposes of to praise God in the faithfulness of our wilderness wanderings, but Jesus' priorities are totally different, and he's kind of, like, making the Jews realize that, hey, our traditions and our priorities Even though they sound great and it sounds like we're praising God and giving God glory throughout this feast, he's like, there's other stuff we could be doing. And he happens to go into a temple and teach. And the Jews marveled, saying, how knoweth this man's letters, having never learned? The Jews are so confused by the fact that Jesus never taught under any of their rabbis, any other teachers. You'll remember when he was a teenager, back when he first started, he like happened to go to a temple at the coming of age, and he was teaching there with the rabbis and all the rulers there, and everybody's like astounded and wondering like who taught this kid? Like how does he talk with so much like authority and reverence, and who is this person? And you can see this, he still has the same authority and still carries the same amount of weight with the words that he speaks. And the Jews are marveling at it and so confused in the sense of that they're like, who is this person and who taught them? You'll remember, I think it's Paul. Paul was learned under, I think it's Gamaliel. He was known as the person that came under Gamaliel. Back in those times, is that the person you learned under was basically like your name, like that was your brand. That was the person you're like, oh, I'm from Gamaliel. Oh, I'm from Peter. Oh, I'm of Paul. It was just like you came from your teacher. That's how people like attribute doctrine, certain teachings, the way that you speak, the way that you carry yourself. It came from your teacher. That's the person who came before you. And Jesus is his own authority. He's God. He's the Son of God. He doesn't have somebody before him teaching him. He is that person. He has the weight and authority and carries all that knowledge with him because he is God. He has nobody before him. He has no teacher. And so the Jews are astounded at this just because they're wondering, like, who is this person? Why is he teaching in this way? And it's just amazing how Jesus' priorities shifted from what the normal was of that day, what our norms would be. If it was Christmas time, everybody's probably going to be at home celebrating Christmas for nowadays. And it'd be weird to be like, oh, well, no, we're going to actually like not do Christmas at all. We're just going to go like door to door and like give out gifts and cook people some food. Like that's not necessarily the norm. Is like, I'm going to be at Christmas. I'm with my family, presents, usually some great food. And Jesus was like, no, like I'm actually going to do what God told me to do. That's great that we're having a feast and all. That's great that, we're praising God for his faithfulness, but I'm actually going to go be faithful to God in what I was called to do. Everybody's celebrating this Jewish holiday about God's faithfulness. Jesus is in the temple teaching about God and his doctrine, staying faithful to the will of the Father. Jesus is still trying not to make a huge spectacle by going to the temple. So he went to the feast in secret, and then he went to the temple in secret. But he teaches so boldly that there's some sort of crowd gathering up. It's funny that Jesus is still trying to keep everything under like a small group, but even his teaching gathers like a whole bunch of people. Like at the start of it, we see everybody pushing for a miracle to get a crowd gathering. But all Jesus needs is to start teaching, and already a crowd gathers. He never shies away from telling the truth. And like we see again, the Jews and rabbis were confused by Jesus knowing the letters without a proper teacher. This is the knowledge. This is just knowledge to Jesus. His authority wasn't man-given, but it was given to him by the Father. And then one thing I really like, I mentioned it already with Paul saying, like, I came from Gamaliel, but Jesus doesn't point to his credentials. He doesn't say necessarily in his teachings right then that I am the Christ and I am the Son of God, and this is why you're going to listen to me. He let the weight of his words and his knowledge in the way that he proclaimed the scriptures to kind of be the thing that stood out to those people. And the reason why they were so like confused was because of how much he knew. If the Jews just listened to what Jesus was saying, then they would have known that Jesus was teaching directly from the scriptures, and that the only logical conclusion from that was that he was from God, which they didn't believe. The reason why the people are coming after him. We're going to go and jump back into John 19 here. John 19. Did not Moses give you the law, and yet none of you keepeth the law? Why go ye about to kill me? The people answered and said, Thou hast a devil who goeth about to kill thee. Jesus answered and said unto them, I have done one work, and ye all marvel. Moses therefore gave unto you circumcision, not because it is of Moses, but of the fathers. And ye on the Sabbath day circumcise a man. If a man on the Sabbath day receive circumcision, that the law of Moses should not be broken, are ye angry at me, because I have made a man every whit whole on the Sabbath day? Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Jesus is asking immediately out of the gate, like, did not Moses give you these laws? Yet none of you keep the law, and you go about to kill me. Saying that all these people are kind of coming against him, saying like, who in their right mind, who gave you the authority to come into the synagogue and teach us? Who gave you the authority to do this, Jesus? And he said, like, did not Moses give you the law, and yet none of you keepeth the law? Why you go about to kill me? Kind of turning the question back onto them, saying like, you're saying you have all this authority to like kick me out and not allow me to teach and to proclaim the scriptures, but none of you are keeping the law in the sense of that Moses gave it to you, and you're also trying to kill me. Isn't that kind of against the law of just kind of like killing people blindly? Like they have a structure, they have like a judge, and they have like a way they go about this as a process. And he's kind of flipping it back onto them, saying that like, where's your authority come from? The law, and you're not keeping with it. And verse 20, the people answered and said, thou hast a devil who goeth about to kill thee. Some of the people in the crowd were just so confused. They had no idea what Jesus was talking about. They didn't know that there was a bunch of people coming after kill him. They're like, Jesus, you have somebody coming after, do you have a devil? Like, they were so confused by the fact that Jesus said just by his words, just by his actions, people are coming to kill him. And some people in the crowd are just like, I think he's referring to a devil. I think that's what he's talking about, is that there must be some sort of devil. There must be some other reasons why people are trying to kill him. It's not anything that he's doing. So as you see, like kind of back in the feast, some people said like, oh, he's good. Some people, he's bad. There's still some people in the crowd that are kind of like torn between what's happening here. And they saying that thou hast the devil who goeth about to kill thee. They didn't know what was happening at that time, of why the rulers and the Pharisees and the Sadducees were all coming against him. And then jumping down into verse 21, Jesus answered and said unto them, I have done one work, and ye all marvel. Moses therefore gave unto you circumcision, not because it is of Moses, but of the fathers, and ye on the Sabbath day circumcise a man. This is going back to John 5:16. If you want to go to John 5:16, just turn there for a quick second. We're going to see what Jesus is referencing to when he's talking about circumcision and the day of the Sabbath, to see exactly what he's pointing back to. 5:16 here. And therefore did the Jews persecute Jesus, and sought to slay him, because he had done these things on the Sabbath. If you look up, you can kind of see like Jesus was talking, in referencing this, Jesus is talking about the healing at the pool of Bethesda, and that he goes by the pool and heals this man and makes him whole and allows him to walk. And this is the day of the Sabbath, and the Jews start to turn on him and start to persecute and seek to slay him because he had done these things on the Sabbath. And that's why Jesus is bringing up this teaching and talking about right now. Back into chapter 7, verse 22. Moses therefore gave unto you the circumcision, not because it is of Moses, but of the fathers. And ye on the Sabbath day circumcise a man. If a man on the Sabbath day receive circumcision, that the law of Moses should not be broken, are ye angry at me? Because I have made a man every whit whole on the Sabbath day. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. So why are you trying to kill me? This is kind of like the main question in this set of verses. Jesus healed a man back on the Sabbath in John 5:16, and then because of this healing, the rulers wanted to kill him. And kind of like talking back with why you go about to kill me, and their answer is that he has the devil who's going to kill me. The multitude was completely clueless as to what Jesus was referring to. Instead, was asking like, there must be a demon. That's the only other reason that you can think of. And then Jesus kind of goes into the circumcision. If somebody can receive circumcision to cut off, to take apart, I'm not going to go into details, but to cut off and to take apart on the Sabbath day, then why is making somebody whole? Why is somebody doing the opposite? If I'm taking something off on the circumcision on Sabbath day, why can't I make somebody whole? Why can't I just do the opposite? Why can't I heal somebody on that day? He's kind of pointing the question back to them. And then he finishes off with, do not judge according to appearance, but judge with a righteous judgment. If the leaders would have done this, they would have had to welcome Jesus instead of contesting and rejecting him. I like to think of that verse 24 kind of like just a challenge for us, is that judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgments. There's a lot of common sense that just kind of goes into that. And we realize that knowing, like having this scripture, kind of like knowing exactly what's happening at the time, we kind of can kind of like take our common knowledge and just be like, of course, that's the right thing to do. But back in that day, you kind of had to take each verse by verse and kind of think back to what was happening beforehand. And think on that Sabbath day is like the most holy day for them. That's like the day where you can't like walk anywhere, you can't like do anything, you're stuck inside your house, you don't work, like you prepare the food the day before so you have that food on that day. And it's very strict with what they do on the Sabbath. But some of the rulers had workarounds. I know of one that they taught in college, which is where they like walked a certain amount of steps that you can walk. They would place like a mat on the ground, stand on there for like a small amount of time, and then proceed to walk again. And then that's how they would get around if they wanted to kind of circumvent the laws. And Jesus is here is saying that like on the Sabbath day, there's so much things that you guys do to circumvent all the laws. Like you're still staying within them, you're still adhering to them, but on the day that I want to heal somebody, on this day that I want to make somebody whole, that's the day that you're going to kind of come against me and start to persecute me. But that's just because he's going against their laws and their rules and what they're saying. And so the rulers don't want this newcomer, this person who's talking with all this wisdom and knowledge and who's carrying a massive crowd around him, to start taking over their territory. So they immediately want him out of there and to start to kill him. We're going to go and continue with John 25. Then said some of them of Jerusalem, is not this he whom they seek to kill? Below he speaketh boldly, and they say nothing unto him. Do the rulers know indeed that this is the very Christ? Howbeit we know this man whence he is. But when Christ cometh, no man knoweth whence he is. Then cried Jesus in the temple as he taught, saying, Ye both know me, and ye know whence I am. And I am not come of myself, but he that sent me is true, whom ye know not. But I know him, for I am from him, and he has sent me. This is causing division among the people. Jesus in here is making a deity claim and saying that, for I am from him, that I am from God, and he has sent me. Reminding them again, like constantly saying, like, this person who you're waiting for, this person who you're like saying is the Messiah coming, the person back in John, in the first chapter of John, where we see John the Baptist and everybody saying, this is the Messiah, this is the person we're waiting for, and they're getting confused by who is coming, and he's saying, I am that person, I am from him, and he that sent me, and you're saying that I know him, and he's just constantly reminding them, but they're not getting it just because they're looking through a lens of we'll get to it. I won't go beyond it, but it's just really interesting to think of like how the Messiah, in their minds, the Messiah is going to come. So the Jews in the crowd called out the rules, saying that they were all talk, but when came to Jesus standing in front of them, they did nothing. So in verse 25, they said, some of them of Jerusalem say, is not this he whom they seek to kill? So this entire chapter, we kind of go over, they seek to kill him. They're seeking to kill him. They're seeking to slay him. They're seeking to kill him. They're seeking him out. They're seeking him in the feast. They're seeking him in the temple. And then the crowd kind of says to all the rulers and all the people who are seeking him, is this not he whom they seek to kill? But lo, he speaketh boldly, and they say nothing unto him. They're calling out the crowd. They're saying that all you people who are coming in here to kill this person, to kill this man, here he is. You're doing nothing to him. He's standing there preaching in front of your faces, and you guys won't do a single thing to him. You won't touch him. You won't go up to him. You won't mention anything to him. You won't talk to them. Do the rulers know indeed that this is the very Christ? The crowd is kind of like choosing sides now and saying that, where's all this talk? Where's all this action coming from? You're saying that you want to take care of him. You're saying that he's causing such an uproar and that he's such a bad man and that, he's taking away your rule and he's teaching improper things, but when it comes down to it, he's saying that whom they seek to kill, below he speaketh boldly, and they say nothing unto him. They have no action at that point because Jesus is talking and preaching. They're calling out the rulers. The crowd had a partial knowledge of the Old Testament and was convinced that the Messiah would come down like a superhero in a blaze of glory. And Jesus replies to this saying that they do know where he comes from and know who he is, but this is all earthly knowledge. So they know who his mom is. They know what region he's come from. They know how he got there. They know the story of how he's born, most likely. They know who his cousin is, John the Baptist, and they know all these things, and that's kind of why they're like hesitant to say that. How about we know this man where he is, but when Christ cometh, in verse 27, no man knoweth whence he is, saying that their knowledge of the Old Testament kind of stopped when we kind of know how he's going to come, and he's supposed to come like in this spark, in this rush, in this secret. And so Jesus is saying that you both know of me and know whence I am, and not come of myself. But he that sent me is true, whom ye know not. How much time do I got? You're over. I'm over? Okay. All right. I'll finish this last point here, and then we'll go ahead and finish off here. It's just funny to me that the Jews had this knowledge and thought that Jesus is going to come down from the sky and just drop down like a rock and like come in the superhero position and proclaim, I am the Messiah, and then boom, that's how with a shirt that says like, I am the Messiah, and that's how you know you're going to, that's our ruler, that's our leader, that's the Messiah. And he kind of contradicts that and says that you know exactly where I've come from and who I am and where my mom is and all my family is, but you kind of miss the point. That's all earthly knowledge. All right, we're going to go and stop off at verse 29 there. So hopefully, Pastor, if you're watching, I stopped on verse 29 so you can pick up there. I'm glad that I went a little bit over because I was afraid that I was going to not hit at all. I was going to be like 10 minutes in and be like, perfect, I finished the whole chapter of John, and then like, we're all good now. All right, we'll go ahead and have a word of prayer. And then just remember, Pastor, in your prayers, he's going to be coming back with like a lot of suffering from the heat from Disneyland. So just keep him in your prayers. Just make sure, we want to pray that he gets back here safely. We miss our pastor. But yeah, he's having fun there. And so just keep him in your prayers. Like I'm glad that he's having a little mini vacation with his family. So let's go ahead and pray, and then we'll be dismissed. Dear Jesus, thank you so much for this day. Thank you so much for just allowing us to open our ears and just hear from the chapter 7 of John, and just that what your purpose was and what your timing is, and just allow us to take that challenge of to judge righteously and to have common sense in what we do, and just to just remember our purposes and just to keep along your timeline. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, thank you, church, and you are dismissed.